how much you do, it's never enough. Not just during finals week, but all the time. You finish a massive assignment, and instead of feeling a wave of relief, your mind instantly hits you with the next demand. The upcoming tests, the projects you haven't started, the deadlines you should have met yesterday. I vividly remember one night at 1 a.m. I was sitting at my desk surrounded by a chaotic sea of papers. With 14 tabs open on my laptop, I was trying to convince myself that I was being productive. I told myself a very common lie. Just finish this one thing and then you can sleep. But we all know what happens next. By 5 a.m. the next day, started to peek through my window. The world was waking up, but my mind was completely blank. My eyes were burning, and my thoughts were spiraling. Then I checked my phone. Suddenly, I wasn't just tired, I felt behind. My feed was a relentless parade of achievements. People were posting about prestigious summer programs, competitions they won, and leadership positions they'd received. I sat there for a while, thinking, how is everyone pulling this off? Why am I the only one struggling? What I didn't realize in that moment was that my exhausted brain was actively betraying me. Evolutionarily, our brains are wired with something called the default mode network, a circuit that turns on the moment we rest, forces us to overthink, and desperately tries to calculate our social standing to ensure our survival. When I looked at my phone, my brain didn't see a curated app. It perceived a threat to my existence. As it turns out, I wasn't alone. Burnout isn't just stress about an exam. It's a deep, systemic, neurological exhaustion, and it happens because we have been conditioned to tie our entire identity to a rigid checklist. We are told to make every single advanced class available, join every club until our calendars bleed, and secure multiple leadership titles while volunteering every weekend, and build the flawless resume. When you live this way, you stop being a person and you start becoming a portfolio. You begin to believe that you only exist if you are achieving. But nobody talks about what happens to your sense of self behind the scenes. It looks like surviving on sleep deprivation and constant anxiety. It looks like walking around exhausted, nodding and saying, "Oh, I'm just busy," because admitting you are completely overwhelmed feels like admitting your very identity is failing. Eventually, burnout stops being a warning light. It becomes who you think you are. Then comes social media, which acts as an accelerant for this identity crisis. Even when you are working incredibly hard, it never feels like enough because you are comparing yourself to a messy, real-time internal struggle, while everyone else's highly edited highlights pass by. Every time I crossed the finish line, the line moved. I remember one weekend where the workload hit me critically. By Saturday night, I found myself in tears over an essay. Now, I couldn't even tell you what the topic was today. I was simply too exhausted to think straight. As I sat there, I had a moment of clarity. I asked myself, when do I actually get to feel satisfied? When do I get to just exist without feeling guilty about it? What if the problem wasn't my worth ethic? What if the problem was that I let my achievements swallow my own identity? We are taught to chase a moving target, and that sounds inspiring in theory, but in reality, it detaches you from who you actually are. So I decided to make a few small changes. I didn't give up on my goals. I just reclaimed my right to define them by drawing some hard lines in the sand. First, I set a hard stop time. At 11 p.m., my sleep mattered more to me. The laptop closed and the phone went face down. No exceptions. At first, my brain panicked, whispering that I was just being lazy. But by forcing myself to stop, I gave my mind a chance to step out of that panic, flight, or flight state, and finally rest. It reminded me that my value doesn't change when the computer turns off. Next, I stopped meaning over my resume. I stopped looking at clubs and committees as things I had to do, and started asking myself, am I actually joining this because it actually connects with who I am, or am I just doing it for the title? If it drained my energy without feeding my genuine interest, I chose to step back. Finally, I stopped trying to carry the weight alone. Burnout convinces us that we have to isolate ourselves and outwork everyone else. But when the next heavy week hits, I felt the urge to hide away. I texted a friend, "Hey, I have a mountain of work. Can we just sit and study together?" Biologically, the simple act of human connection releases oxytocin, which calms the panic center in our brain. Just sharing the space made the workload feel lighter, reminding me that we aren't meant to survive these pressures in isolation. Slowly, the fog began to lift. I remember a Monday morning a few weeks later. I had a math test, a presentation, a club meeting. Normally, that lineup would cause levels of panic before I even got out of bed. But that day, I woke up and realized I felt okay. Not perfect, not effortlessly organized, but okay. And okay felt like a shift, because it meant I was grounded in myself, not the outcome of the day. Success should never demand your identity as collateral, because if you win the prize but lose yourself in the process, what exactly have you won? It is time to rewrite the script. Let's choose balance over perfection. Let's value quality over quantity, and character over a perfected resume. Choosing balance doesn't mean you've lost your ambition. It just means you love your vision enough to ensure you are actually healthy enough to enjoy it when you get there. So instead of constantly asking yourself, "Am I doing enough?" try asking, "Who am I becoming?" and actually listen to the answer. Because you are a person first and a resume second. You deserve to live a life with meaning while working towards your goals and not just after you achieve them. You are more complex, interesting, and more valuable than any future plan you've written down. Choosing balance isn't falling behind. It's an act of courage. It is redefining success in a way that anchors your worth in who you are, not just what you do. And that is the only version of success truly worth chasing.